2022 is now in session. Clerk, please call the roll.
Representatives Boyd, Grills, Hall, Hicks of Washington, Howell, Potts, Russell, Towns, Vidal, Whitson.
Here.
Chairman, you have a quorum.
Okay, and we need a quorum. It requires 6, and we're waiting on a few more members. Members, any personal orders and announcements for the committee? Seeing none, I have just a few. Just a reminder, amendments for the omnibus bill for specialty license plates and highways, roads, and bridges are due to the Chairman Howell's office no later than March 1st. Our last calendar will be generated for this committee on March 8th. So if you have any bills you'd like our committee to consider, please get them on notice as soon as possible. Today, first, a little change on the calendar. We're going to be taking up items number 7 and 8 on the calendar first. The distinguished gentleman from Old Hickory, Tennessee, you are recognized on House Bill 2037.
Motion on the bill. Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, House Bill 2037, currently in order for a minor to receive a driver's license, the student must show satisfactory academic progress. Even if they show satisfactory progress, which is determined by the school, and receive a driver's license, if any time during their high school tenure they fall below satisfactory grades, their license is suspended. This bill would strike the provision from the from the statute. Frankly, the parent, not the school, should decide whether a child should drive or not. I would probably submit to you that a young person, that their grades and academic progress, there's more than being on the dean's list. It does not necessarily indicate that you have great moral character or integrity. They're otherwise a productive member of society. You don't know what a young person is going through at home. Many students who are struggling in the classroom face hardship in their personal lives. Taking away their ability to drive imposes further obstacles on their path to success. The student may need a license for a variety of reasons, such as medical appointments, grocery shopping, family, or even having a job to help support the family. I do agree that truancy should remain as an obstacle to receive a driver's license. If you're not making an effort to go to school, you shouldn't be rewarded with a driver's license. So, Chairman, I'm happy to answer any questions, but I think it's imperative that we remove this statute from code.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Jernigan. Do we have any comments from the committee? I just know I had friends in high school. They probably wouldn't have got a driver's license until they graduated at age 21. So this, I think, would help a lot of folks. So any other comments? Okay, we are now voting on House Bill 2037. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Bill moves on to full transportation. Next up, we have House Bill 2318 by Vice Chairman Jernigan.
Thank you, Chairman. I believe I have an amendment.
Do we have a motion and a second?
Oh.
Okay, and then we need to put the amendment on the bill. Do we have a motion and a second for the amendment? We have a motion and a second for the amendment. And the bill drafting number I have is 013728. Is that correct?
For the amendment?
Yes, we're voting on 013728.
13728, correct.
Okay, all in favor of placing the amendment 013728 on House Bill 2318, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. The amendment goes on the bill. Please explain your bill.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The bill, as amended, requires the design of disabled license plates incorporate the color scheme, base design, and details used as standard registration plates. So basically, what happened was disabled plates were in a different part of the code. They were not included in the budget to receive blue plates, and this will correct it so that disabled plates will have blue ones starting January 1st of next year.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is a great bill, and I'm glad you brought it forward. Do we have any comments from the committee? Question's been called. All in favor of House Bill 2318 going to full transportation, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Bill passes, goes to full transportation. Thank you, Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's officer level thinking you got going on.
Okay. Now, we're going back to item number 1 on our agenda, House Bill 2198, and we have Leader Gant in the office or the room. Oh, there he is. Good morning, Leader. We have a motion and a second. You're recognized, sir. 2194, excuse me.
Okay, you threw me off there for a second.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Chairman and Committee. What this bill is pretty simple. All it's doing is it will give TDOT more tools to enhance the TDOT Litter Grant Program, which will allow special litter grants for nonprofits, law enforcement, and cities. And it also adds in waterways to the program as well. So and that's pretty much all this is doing, is giving an avenue for nonprofits, law enforcement, and cities to take advantage of this.
Members, any comments from the committee? I think this is a great bill, especially for waterways. After the recent floods last year, I grew up on Mill Creek, and it looked awful after the amount of trash and stuff that flowed in that. With that, members, we are now voting on House Bill 2194. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Bill moves on to full transportation. Next up, we have House Bill 2338 by Leader Gant. Leader Gant, do we have a motion and a second? We have a motion and a second. Leader Gant, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee. House Bill 2338 would provide a stream of funding for licensed ambulance services to offset the cost of trauma transports. The transports are provided regardless of reimbursement and are often caused by excessive speed, reckless driving, and driving under the influence. Because these crimes are factors in many trauma situations, this legislation would fine individuals engaging in this behavior and direct the proceeds to ambulance services and hospitals that are responsible for the care of the individuals in the aftermath of an accident. A funding model that created in this legislation is successfully in place currently now in Georgia, and it creates around $12 million in funding for ambulance services and hospitals. And how the funding works is a $200 fine would be added to the existing fines for these crimes. And again, we're talking about driving under the influence, reckless driving, and excessive speed. The revenue created from these fines will be directed to the Board of Emergency Medical Services to be paid out as follows. 72% will be paid out evenly to all licensed ambulance services. 22% will be sent to the Trauma Advisory Council to be spent according to their existing trauma funding model. 5% will be kept within the EMS board to offset any administrative cost. This legislation funds all licensed ambulance services evenly so that rural services get the same amount as urban services rather than a call volume-based model in which most funding would be sent to the most populated areas of the state. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate your support and many of you on this committee's support of this legislation. I think it's something that we're all proud of and can be proud to support. And Mr. Chairman of Committee, I also have Tim Boer with us here in the audience with the Tennessee Ambulance Service Association. If anybody has any questions further than what I've described that you might want to ask him about or give examples of how this could be used better, he's here standing in the wings as well. Other than that, I submit it back to you, Mr. Chairman, for passage.
Thank you, Leader Gant. Any comments or questions? Representative Towns, you're recognized, sir.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Thanks for the bill as well. Obviously, it takes money to do all this stuff, and people are driving like really crazy these days. Have you all gotten a projection of how much money is going to come from Tennessee and what areas the money is going to come from? What do you think is coming from Nashville, Davidson County, Shelby County, Hamilton? What kind of figures do we have?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to make sure I was recognized before I started speaking. The physical cost, I guess, is what you're asking about. I mean, the impact that the income is going to come into the state. And I know Fiscal Review has estimated approximately 1 million that would come in to this. But remember, this is something that, it's kind of hard to gauge that. And the only other model that we have is the state of Georgia, which is very similar in nature to this. And as I mentioned, it brings in 12 million in funding for the ambulance services in hospitals. And drilling down into specific geographical regions, I don't think, we have that data of how that would come back. So, but hopefully that gives you a snapshot.
Well, it does, but you said only $1 million for the entire state of Tennessee?
That is my understanding, is the cost that we got back would generate. But now again, that's only a model that they're
Right.
looking at. We believe it's going to bring in much more.
And that $1 million would be divided up to the entire state? It's not
Well,
a lot of money.
If Mr. Chairman, if you want me to go through the payout again, I'll be glad to go through that again if that's okay. 72% will be paid out evenly to all licensed ambulance services. 22% will be sent to Trauma Advisory Council to be spent according to their existing trauma funding model. 5% will be kept within the EMS board to offset any administrative cost.
Yeah, well, obviously, we want to help the guys with this trauma and the ambulance company, but that doesn't seem like there's going to be a lot of revenue. $1 million, even if it was $5 million. How many ambulance services do we have currently in the state, roughly?
I'm sorry, I don't have those numbers readily with me.
Right, okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Towns. Any other questions? Okay, members, we are now voting on House Bill 2338. All in favor of sending this to Transportation Full, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Moves to Transportation Full.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee.
What? Yeah, there it goes. Been a long day already. So, next up is item number 3 from the Chairman Doggett. We will now recognize him on House Bill 2573. Chairman Doggett, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
House Bill 2573 is something that, a lot of times we have constituents.
Do we have a motion and a second? Okay, I'm
Sorry
sorry.
about
Go
that.
ahead.
Sorry. A lot of times we have constituents that bring us ideas. When we bring legislation to Nashville, these things just don't come out of our brains. Someone a lot smarter than us is the ones that identified a need for this. I worked in law enforcement for 5 years. I remember the first time that I had a traffic stop where I noticed a restriction on their driver's license. If you look at your driver's license, there's a little space there for restrictions. It'll have different coded 2-digit codes that'll be there that identify something significant about about that individual that you have contact with or with your driver's license. One of those is, for instance, a sex offender. If someone is a sex offender, their driver's license will have a number 88 restriction. In law enforcement, that helped me identify individuals when I was made contact with them, if it was through a traffic stop, that they were indeed a registered sex offender. If there were children in the vehicle or whatever the case may be, it gave me an opportunity to invest a little further, to ask other questions. And so you may have an opportunity where a crime is being committed that you're not aware of. There are numerous other codes that are used, but one that is not is human trafficking, and it's something that this legislative body has fought fiercely over the past several years, is to fight against human trafficking. We've done a lot of really great things that look at human trafficking, but one of those is not having that code on your driver's license. And so what this bill seeks to do is to put, if you are convicted of human trafficking, you will have a special two-digit number listed on your driver's license. That way, if a person has an interaction with law enforcement, and either it be a trooper, a police officer, or county deputy was to have a traffic stop with someone, and they see that restriction, that code there on their driver's license, they would know that this is a person that has been convicted of human trafficking. If there are multiple people in the vehicle, maybe children or females or whoever it may be that are in that car, it gives them a reason to ask questions and investigate further. They may be saving someone's life by putting this code on there. And so that's what this bill does. We're seeking to add this restriction code on there just so that it can help alert law enforcement as to whom they are dealing with.
Do we have any questions from the committee? Representative Grills, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Doggett, I just want to thank you so much for all that you've done to this. Over the past couple of weeks, maybe the month, I've been looking into some of this trafficking stuff, and it's unreal how often it happens right under our nose, and we don't even realize it. But just thank you for those efforts, and just anything we can do to maybe save one more life or one more kid, it's definitely a step in the right direction. So I commend you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Towns.
Representative Douglas here again, and it's only growing, going that way. So love to sign on to the bill.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Yes. And again, I appreciate you bringing this. A few years ago, I joined TBI when they conducted a sting operation in Brentwood, and 20 people were arrested thinking they were going to meet up with a 14-year-old girl. And I think this is, like you said, it's a good tool for law enforcement to help them be alert, and I appreciate you bringing this.
One more.
Representative Grills.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is this thing, once it's this is identified on their driver's license, is there a way to ever get it off? Will it be on there forever?
That might be a question that we would need to go to legal services about to answer that.
Without objection, we go out of session. Joel?
Joel Hayes, Office of Legal Services. The way it is phrased is based on a person's conviction. So unless that conviction, so long as that conviction is still on their record, they would have to be required to do this.
Back in session. Okay, any other comments? Representative Vital.
I might just say, thank you, Mr. Chairman, I-75 is a real corridor for human trafficking, and so I would just like to make a suggestion. If you need a code, make it 666. They're the worst offenders, these human traffickers, and that identifies them.
Thank you.
You won't forget the number.
Good suggestion there.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, we're not actually setting the code in record. That'll be something I believe the Department of Safety will do. They've got a whole list of codes, and I'll be happy to share. I've got a sample driver's license here that I can email to the committee members so you can just see. This driver's license has the sex offender code on there, but it would give you a kind of a ballpark idea of what you're looking at when you see it.
Okay, and again, I appreciate your 5 years in law enforcement.
Well, thank you.
Okay,
Question on the
Representative
bill.
Towns.
Question on the bill, sir.
Question on the, been called. Members, we're now voting on House Bill 2573, Senate to Transportation full. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, moves out to full. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Chairman.
Doggett.
Okay, next up, item number 4. We have Chairman Lafferty on House Bill 2550. Chairman, you're recognized, sir. Do we have a motion and a second?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Second?
Second.
We have a
Thank you,
motion and a
committee.
second.
Pretty straightforward bill here today, quick and easy. We are simply going to increase from $50 for running a stop sign that is presented on the side of a school bus. We're going to raise that from $50 to $200. Kind of slap the knuckleheads a little bit harder if they're speeding around our school buses and around our kids. With that, renew my motion.
Okay, members, any comments? Questions been called on this good bill? All in favor of sending House Bill 2550 to Transportation full, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, moves on to Transportation full.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, committee.
Next up, we have item number 5 from the distinguished gentleman from Dayton, Tennessee. Representative Travis, you are recognized on House Bill 2185.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion and a second.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. House Bill 2185, and this proposal removes the provision in the code that if a driver defaults on a payment plan from the Department of Safety reinstatement fees, they cannot be placed on another payment plan. And this, by allowing drivers to reestablish a payment plan, the drivers will be able to obtain a valid driver's license.
Thank you for that explanation. Any comments from the committee? Seeing none, we are now voting on House Bill 2185. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Moves on to full transportation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next up, item number 6, Representative Hodges. What's that? We're going to roll that one to the hill. Members, I'd like to take just a brief recess. Don't leave. I need a quorum. Without objection, we're going to recess. Stand by. Members, we're now back in session. Okay. Representative Parkinson, you are recognized on House Bill 2380, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee. And for the sake of discussion, can I get the amendment added to the bill?
Yes. Okay, we have amendment number 013719. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All in favor of putting amendment number 013719 on House Bill 2380, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Amendment goes on the bill. Please explain your bill, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, committee. I sit on TASER myself, and Chairman Yeager in the Senate is the chair of TASER. And we both want to get together and get TASER to study passenger rail or a suitable alternative for passenger mobility that will connect the cities and the counties across the entire state. They are to bring us back this study, and they're working along in conjunction with TDOT, and to bring us back this study by, I think I got on here, I want to say July of 23, if I'm not mistaken. And, we get the study back, bring it back before transportation, and everybody get a chance to see it. And that's all it does. Pretty straightforward.
Representative Towns, you are recognized, sir.
Mr. Chairman, last year, it may have been last year or the year before, Transportation made a presentation to our committee. And this is one of the hot topics that came up as it relates to the ability of Tennesseans to travel across the state, maybe even connect and go up to Atlanta on train, and maybe even take it all the way down to New Orleans. We talked about that, okay? We need that. We really do need it in this state as a mode of moving not only freight, but moving people in cases of, fun transportation, having fun while transported, but in case there are emergencies in our community. And what I was commissioned the members or asked the members to think about right now is that if we're going to do it, and I think we should, the labor cost on this thing is going to only get higher at some point. Building highways and roads, it all goes up. It's not cheap. If we'd done it 25 years ago, we'd be ahead of the game. So, but it was a lively discussion about that, and it seemingly that the members in the committee were really, really looking forward to something of that nature as it relates to transportation. So this is a study. Hopefully they can bring back some good information. Don't take a lot of time to do it because the costs are rising every minute of the day. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Chairman Howell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the representative from Memphis is correct. We did have hearings, I think it was 2019, and representatives from Amtrak came, and they presented a very interesting presentation, made state news, I believe, statewide, because there's interest on their part in connecting Memphis with Nashville to Chattanooga to Atlanta.
Absolutely.
But there was a buy-in from the state. I believe it was a recurring expense of a few $1 million. At that time, there weren't the funds to do it. And I believe Amtrak was waiting for the infrastructure bill to pass.
Right.
And I learned a lot during that time to find out that the existing railroads, by federal law, have to allow passenger service on their rail service. And I think a study of that situation is good, and I would support it. And thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Just, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I want to sign on to the bill.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, any other comments from the committee? Okay, we're now voting on House Bill 2380 as amendment to send it to full transportation. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Bill moves to full transportation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, committee.
Next, we're up on item number 10 by Representative Parkinson, House Bill 2251.
Thank
Sir,
you,
you're recognized.
Thank you, sir. And for the
Do we
sake
have
of
a motion
discussion,
and a second? We have a motion and a second.
Can we get the amendment on for the sake of discussion, Mr. Chair?
I don't have an amendment.
Oh, you don't have an amendment? Neither do I.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, we're in sync. Okay.
Somewhat, anyway, right? So what this bill does is it gives an individual that is convicted of speeding a one-time shot at going to a defensive driving course to get those points from their speeding ticket removed. It's one time in 4 years, and and that's all it does. It's pretty straightforward. And I have talked to safety about it myself and Attorney Stroker. We did have great conversations about it.
Well, you explained the question I was going to ask. How many times can they use this? You say only once in 4 years,
Once
correct?
in 4 years, yes, sir.
That's good.
Once
Okay,
in 4 years.
members,
And if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, it is not for anyone that is convicted of reckless driving or any of that. It is just for if you got a speeding ticket and you plead guilty to it, then you have one shot at redemption. That's what it does.
Okay, sounds good. Members, Representative Towns, did you have something?
Mr. Chairman, yes, I do. With this particular bill, speeding, just say that the speed limit is 30 miles. And so if they have 35 miles, does that qualify at 35?
I think that would qualify if the officer gave you a ticket at 35. And I don't know how many points go on your record for going 5 miles over the speed limit, but, it's to, that one-time redemption for removing the points on your speeding record.
And obviously, Mr. Chairman, I'm concerned, obviously, about this real crazy stuff that's going on the highways. I just saw a report in our locale down there. There have been 33 fatalities. And they're zooming. They're not 5 miles over. I mean, they are flying like bats out of hell. They're driving like crazy on the highway, on the streets, the whole 9 yards. This doesn't necessarily get at that if you catch them. But 5 or 10 miles over, and this bill but there's something out there. This bill won't address that, and We just have to see how it pans out, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
And, Mr. Chair, do you mind? And to your point, Representative Towns, we are not talking about those that are accused and convicted of reckless driving, and that's what we're dealing with in Memphis. This is a person that happened to be speeding, got pulled over. You know, THP may pull them over, and you know, and they get a ticket, and they sign and pay their fine for their ticket, and they get one time opportunity of redemption on it. Removing the points. It doesn't remove the ticket; it just removes the points, up to 5 points.
And Representative Towns, it's not only in Memphis. I see it coming up I-65, and that's why I fully support the budget allocation for an additional 100 Tennessee Highway patrolmen for.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any other comments? Chairman Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the sponsor, I just have one question, and you may not know the answer, but I'm just curious. How many points does a person have to have on their license before that license reaches the level of being suspended?
12
12 points.
in 1 year.
So this doesn't remove half, 50, okay.
No, sir. And that's in one year.
In 1 year,
Yes, sir.
12 in 1 year.
Yes, sir.
So they're going to really get a lot of tickets if they get 12 points in a year.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So this is just a redemption for those who may be listening to the radio, enjoying the wind in their hair and looking at the birds fly as they drive in the country. Suddenly they're driving 50 and a 40. And they
Coming
get a ticket.
downhill. Yes, sir.
Going downhill,
Yes,
okay.
sir.
But it does not include reckless driving.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Very good. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Representative Towns.
I hate to do this, Mr. Chairman, but is it, for transportation, is it 1 point per infraction? Is that what happened? Or are there some infractions that the,
Let's hear from the expert.
Please.
Let's go out of session.
My expert also.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Joel, you recognize.
Joel Hayes, Office of Legal Services. So the Department of Safety actually has their schedule of points for traffic offenses for all different types of offenses. For speeding, they calculate points partly, you know, if it's a commercial vehicle, if it's done in a commercial vehicle, if it's a non-commercial vehicle, if it's within a construction zone. But for example, speeding in a non-commercial motor vehicle for 1 to 5 miles over the speed limit is worth 1 point. For 6 to 15 miles an hour over the in excess of the speed zone is 3 points. 16 to 25 miles an hour over is 4 points, and 26 to 35 miles an hour over is 5 points. And that's just for non-commercial in a non-work zone. And again, points are generally higher if you're in a commercial vehicle or if you're in the construction zone.
So, Mr. Chairman, technically, two infractions at the 20 miles over at 20 miles, you say 26 miles over?
Yes, but the bill as amended only allows for one ticket.
But 12 points, your license can be suspended.
Correct.
So it could happen twice, okay?
But you can only reduce up to 5 points for one traffic violation, one speeding violation.
Well, you can only have it reduced, possibly.
Correct.
Not guaranteed, one time.
In a 4-year period.
In a 4-year period.
After a successful completion of a defensive driving course approved by the department.
Okay, all right. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Any other comments for, okay, back in session, and that answered my question too. The course has to be approved by the
Yes, sir.
Department of Safety, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Any last comments? Okay, members, we're now voting. Okay, we had a question on the bill. Okay, members, we're now voting on House Bill 2251, sending it to full transportation. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Moves on to full transportation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
for your
Thank you,
help.
committee. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you. And Joel, my go-to guy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, members. Next up is House Bill 2754, item number 11 on our agenda. And Representative Harris, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Chairman, and to the committee. So this is probably going to be the best transportation legislation you've probably seen since being elected.
But before we do, we need a motion and a second to hear the best. Do you have a motion and a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please proceed there, Representative.
Thank you so much. So we see it every day as we travel our roadways, plenty of temporary drive-out tags on vehicles, some that look like 5x7 stickers, some that say nothing more than the words tags applied for, and oftentimes just a plastic plate. Turns out a lot of them are fake, and for law enforcement and drivers, it becomes a real and growing problem, with people even selling them on Facebook Marketplace for $25. This bill was brought forward by the Memphis Police Chief, and so police chiefs across the state that I've spoken with have said that on multiple occasions they pull over someone with a fake drive-out tag and they have several more inside their vehicle. Fake temporary tags are being used to skirt taxes that help educate our children, a vehicle registration fee, and for some drivers to get around undetected by law enforcement. Last February, Erica Wilkins was walking across the shoulder of Elvis Presley Boulevard in Memphis, Tennessee, when a car swerved and hit her. Erica didn't survive. It was 6 days before her 39th birthday. She had 3 children, and the youngest just turned 6 years old. Police say the driver was in a black Nissan with Tennessee temporary tags that were not legitimate, which calls for the driver to still not be found to this day. House Bill 2754 would require the Commissioner of Revenue to issue a new temporary plate of a distinctive design beginning January 1st of 2023, and this bill would establish a fine and sentencing for a person who counterfeits, copies, duplicates, or manufactures a temporary plate or assists in doing so. The fiscal note is not significant, as it would not require additional staff or resources to develop a new distinctive design to illuminate the multiple versions of drive-out temporary tags. With that, I ask that the committee support this bill.
Thank you, Representative. I think that's a great explanation that you gave us, and I appreciate you bringing this bill. Till we realize that these things can happen, you know, it takes folks like you to bring it forward to this committee, and we appreciate it. Do you have any comments from the committee? Chairman Howard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to echo what you said. I had no idea. It's amazing. The longer I sit on this committee, the more I learn. I had no idea this was an underground illegal activity. And I guess what people are photocopying them on their copier with heavy cardboard and punching a hole in it and putting it on their car. It's amazing what we learn, but I think this is a good attempt at a solution for that, and I appreciate you bringing the bill.
Mr. Chairman, thank you again. Yeah, Mr. Chairman, it is a problem, and it's not a problem just in one part of the state. We don't pay it any attention. Law enforcement pays it some attention, and it's so easy to do. It's so easy to do, and they're all mostly white pieces of paper, okay? So that could be anything, okay? But if you get it color-coded, hopefully they get some kind of color-coded, okay? Law enforcement will know from the start, from afar, whether or not that is legitimate or not, and they're everywhere with these new cars. I've seen so many drive-out tag, it's unreal, and they all could have not bought cars doing that. It's no way. It's just absolutely no way. So here too, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to sign on to the bill. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, and also soon they'll be good for 60 days, right, Chairman Howe?
That's right.
Okay, members, we're now voting on House Bill 2754. What's that? Did you? Oh, I'm sorry, Representative Grills. I didn't see you over there.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is this not already illegal, though, to fabricate these tags?
Yeah, it is, but there wasn't a fine placement on there, and of course, I think we increased the actual misdemeanor for it as well.
So Mr. Chairman, thank you. So there's no fine whatsoever. It's just you could do this, and there was no fine.
At the time of this language, I don't believe there was a fine. We are placing a fine on there now of $1,000 and imprisonment for not less than 30 days.
Okay. Thank you.
Also to mention, I did have an opportunity to speak with members of the department as well, and they're already working through this situation too. And hopefully around November, later around that time, they'll be able to release a new tag, so it'll be before the January deadline of this bill.
Okay, any other comments from the committee? Okay, folks, question's been called. We're now voting on House Bill 2754 to send to full transportation. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Moves on to full transportation. Good bill.
Thank you so much.
Members, item number 6 by Representative Hodges has been rolled for 1 week. And that completes our calendar. Without objection, do I have a motion to adjourn?